Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for MSU's extension discussion about the MCIR website, Michigan Care Improvement Registry, with our guests from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Roz and Kelsey, would you like to get us started with some introductions?
Sure, I can go first. Thanks, Alyssa. So my name is Roz. I work directly with the MCIR system on the technical side and work to make sure that things get deployed effectively for all of the users and information that comes and flows in through the MCIR system. So I've been doing this with the organization for about a year and have learned a lot. It's been a pleasure. Kelsey?
Yeah, thanks, Roz. My name is Kelsey Napier. I'm one of the help desk analysts for the MCIR system. So anyone across the state, providers, public, if they've got a question about MCIR, how to use it, got an issue going on, I will be the person that they talk to. Been working in this position for the last couple months here, and I've really enjoyed learning everything about the MCIR system. It's been great.
Perfect. So just to get us started, can one of you explain what MCIR stands for and what it is?
Sure, Alyssa, I can take that one. Before we even talk about what MCIR is, I just want to take a step back, maybe about 20 years from when MCIR started to 1978. And that's when things changed in the state of Michigan, requiring information specifically around children to be captured and presented. So there was that mandate that then in 1998, we moved to a system that allows information to flow and information to be stored specifically for children. At that point in time, it was called the Michigan Children's Immunization Registry, and the focus was everyone that was school age. That started and continued until 1998, I believe, is when, from the state of Michigan perspective, we had adult data that could then flow into the system, be tracked, and allowed to be stored and presented back to those authorized users. We couldn't continue with that name, although the acronym was solid within the community. So MCIR now stands for the Michigan Care Improvement Registry, and that's how that started.
And it encompasses adults now.
Adults and children.
Yeah. So how is MCIR funded, and do other states also have their own sort of MCIR or is the system as well?
Michigan Healthy Fund was created, and it was funded with tax dollars from the tobacco industry. To this day, those funds remain along with additional grants. The creation of and the maintenance of MCIR is funded through those mechanisms today. Concerning other states, this is relatively new, I would say. So it's important, especially we have a lot of partners, we have a lot of states that we border with. So we have a lot of folks within Michigan that might have providers that they see across state lines. From the broader context, as a nation, I know there's a goal to be able to easily transfer that data back and forth. So Michigan is pretty much at the forefront, I would say, of that initiative. And we are today consuming data from other states and are continuing to move forward to add that on to help users like me and the public to utilize the MCIR system, even if I have out-of-state information to communicate.
So along that same sort of vein, if you get a shot in another state, can they enter that information into MCIR for Michigan?
And how that will happen today, and again, I think we can see some changes with this in the future, depending on the state those services are rendered. Today, what you would want to make sure to have happen is that your healthcare provider or your local health department receive those immunization records. They have the ability then to update the MCIR information so that when you have a need to pull that information as a authorized user, it's there for your retrieval.
So just like a broad question, why do we need records of vaccines and these records throughout our lifetime?
Sure. So there's a couple of different reasons for that. Michigan has an interest, obviously, and cares deeply about the public health. The ability to respond and to evaluate information within the state in the event that we have information or vaccination information we want to send out to the broader public. Understanding where we might have populations at risk is where this information becomes helpful, and where we want to make sure that we have targeted information to specific areas that might be in need of more detailed information regarding something of that nature. When we think about our own lives day to day, kids in school, athletic events, our own personal travel, all the different occasions where we're asked to provide that information, MCIR provides a mechanism for those authorized users to obtain information that is difficult for us to maintain personally over such a long period of time. These records start when our kids are small, and then it carries on throughout their education and beyond as an adult. This information becomes critical for us. Having a place to access and pull that information down is just, it's helpful.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I know you've said a couple times about authorized users. Why can schools get copies of vaccine records? Is that a violation of privacy? Why is that?
Schools do have the ability to get information once there's authorization provided. When I register my kids for school, it's the ability for the school to get that immunization information that typically before MCIR, the parents would have to provide directly. So that helps everybody to understand at the school that particular demographic, what's happening there, so they can communicate that. Separate, when it comes to privacy, which is critical, there was legislation passed, and the acronym for that is FERPA, F-E-R-P-A. And FERPA speaks directly to children and those in school and the privacy around that information that is available for the schools for a specific purpose. So it is highly protected and has been in play for many years now.
Okay. So how could I access my own immunization record?
And I think Kelsey's going to speak to some of that information, Alyssa.
Yeah, thank you, Raz. So there's a couple different ways that you can access a copy of your immunization record yourself. You can visit MCIR.org and navigate to our Michigan Immunization Portal. In order to use the portal, you must be 18 years or older. You'll have to create or sign into a MyLogin account and then upload a copy of your driver's license, passport, or state ID. You want to make sure that your address and your name matches what is in MCIR in order to download your record. And you can also always get a copy of your immunization record by asking your regular healthcare provider, contacting your county's local health department, or you can also submit a request directly to the state with a form that's available on our website as well.
So are you only able to access your own personal records, or could you also access your children's immunization records?
Sure. So the portal is only for individuals that are 18 years or older. However, you can request a copy of your child's immunization record, again, by contacting their healthcare provider, so your child's regular pediatrician, at the local health department, or by submitting that request to MDHHS. And we do have that form available on the site under our Forms tab.
Can I opt out of having my shots in MCIR put into MCIR? And if so, how would I do that?
Yes, so you do have the right and the ability to opt out of having you or your child's immunization data in MCIR. There are many public health benefits to having your data in MCIR, such as improving our state's ability to respond to outbreaks. We do recommend discussing opting out with your healthcare provider or the health department. You also want to keep in mind that by opting out of MCIR, you are solely responsible for keeping accurate records for you or your child's immunization, including those that are required for school or childcare. You can opt out of MCIR using a form, again, located on our website.
And so how do child care centers and daycares and all of those, how do they access those immunization records?
Sure. So the Michigan Public Health Code, it requires all children who attend a child care center that is licensed for over 10 children to have a valid immunization record on file. The child care center is required to report immunization status annually, and the child care can validate a child's immunization history via MCIR or by obtaining that copy from the parent or guardian.
Okay. So if the records in MCIR are not up to date, how could you get them updated?
So you can either work with your healthcare provider or the local health department to update immunization information in your records, such as modifying or deleting incorrect immunizations. If there's an immunization that you received recently that's missing from your record, you'd want to contact the provider that administered that vaccine and request that they add it to your record. If information in your record needs to be updated, such as your address, or maybe you've changed your name, or maybe you find out you might have had a duplicate account in MCIR, your healthcare provider or the health department can submit a form to the MCIR team to request that change.
And just our last question, if I get a shot at a local pharmacy or health department, will that automatically be entered into MCIR?
Sure. So according to the Michigan Public Health Code, all immunizing providers that are in the state of Michigan, including pharmacies and local health departments, they're required to report immunizations for individuals under 20 years of old within 72 hours of that administration. So although it's not required for vaccines administered to those that are over 20, it is highly recommended that immunizations for all ages be reported by providers to MCIR, and it's pretty standard practice for that to be done.
Thank you both so much for all this information about what MCIR is and how we can use it. We really appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alyssa.